choose it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, if you haven't had a chance to look at a computer yet, could you do so now? Because I'm going to go out of announcements in just a minute and into that. So if you don't have a computer handy, they're over there. Just open it up, and you want to get into our Blackboard site, and we're going to look at surveys and talk about that for just a minute. So we're transitioning. Everybody needs to be able to look at a computer in about 2 minutes or less. Whether you're finished, don't worry about if you're not finished with the survey, because there's times during the lecture even you can be counting things up at that point. Okay. All right. One of the things that is a part of this program now is, and it has been captured a little bit differently in the past, but right now, at the end of the program, all of the things that you need to complete to get certified and so forth are captured in a class called Capstone. Within the Capstone project, and by the way, if you're in it right now, you may be in internship, because it used to be a combination between the two. It will no longer be that soon. In that Capstone class, you create a portfolio. If you want to see what that portfolio is right now and be able to work on it, you can, because it's nothing that's going to be magical that, I don't know enough right now to do this stuff. You do. I mean, because the things that you're doing that are leadership in your jobs right now will work for you for that capstone. You don't have to wait and say, oh, I'm not taking it till next fall, so next fall I'm going to do this thing. Rima, I got your folder here as we're going by. And so where to look for it, I created a Google site for it. I'm not going to show that to you right now, but if you want to write it down, the Google sites are http:// like always, sites, S-I-T-E-S, sites, .google.com.
Repeat that one more time.
Yep, it's sites, S-I-T-E-S, no W's. There's no W's in this thing. Sites.google.com. And after the com, there's another slash. And then the word site, it's a single word, no S on the end. And then the end of that is UNOEDL capstone, cap. And then the one the same type of thing. If you want to say, well, what's on the internship? I'm doing principalship work. It's UNOEDL intern. So again, the front stem of it is http:// sites with an S google.com/a single site. It's going to tell them now which site it is, and there's two of them that I've created. One is for the capstone, and one is for the internship. And you can download all the forms and so forth from there. But one of the things that is required within that is that it is required for you to have completed surveys, that you need to do this class. And the reason you need to do that in this class is because you need to be able to see growth. And you can't see growth if you don't see where you came from. So down here where it says surveys, you're going to click into that. And it gives you some reminders of things that I'm going to say to you right now. But you're going to go down each one of these and create a survey, answer a survey for yourself. And it's the standards, the 6 standards that are in this program. Leadership vision, instructional leadership, management, school, family, culture, climate, ethics, and the greater context, the governance and so forth of schools. So this is opening up. I opened up in there and I saw a whole list of surveys. Here's the first one. So you are going to answer this of where you are right now in your mind if you were asked to lead this building tomorrow or the district or whatever. How well do you feel you're ready to do this right now? Not how well are you going to be able to do it. So if you don't even understand what the words mean in here, you're not at a 5. Okay? And that's okay, because that's why you're coming to classes. How do you show growth if you say I'm perfect at everything now? So people are afraid to put low scores for these things. Okay, I can lead others to develop a vision of learning for a school that promotes the success of all students and is reflecting of the school's mission statement. Well, how confident are you that you would be able to go in and implement that in a school? You know what all those words mean. But how close do you feel? So you strongly agree you're ready to do that? I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. Or, boy, I need to, know some more about that. And you mark all of these questions. Then you print that out. And I'm going to repeat that. You print it out. Don't forget to print it out, because we are going through a change of how this is being housed, and I am not secure that this survey it's being kept under your student number, but I would certainly hate to go back and have to face you all a year from now and say we can't find them. So print it and put it in the stuff. I kept a box that I called my portfolio box, and when I did great stuff, I wrote papers, I did things, I kept it all along the way. It was a mess, but at least when I got to the place where I was ready to do my capstone, I didn't have to race around and find flash drives and computers and stuff all over the place. There was stuff that I was proud of that I kept, and this would be at the bottom of the box. Because this is important for you to have so that you can say, well, gosh, back in intro, I was only a 2 on this, but now I'm a 5, and you can see which things that you were strong in early on in the program, which things you've gained ground in, and which things you still have some concern with. The faculty keeps a hold of the group's information. They can't go in and say, oh, let's see what Carrie's answers were. Let's compare that against Nick's. But we can say, how did the students in 2008 respond to this, as opposed to the students in 2015? And where's our program getting better, and where do we need to change some things? Where are students feeling they're ready, and where do they need, So we use it for program improvement, but not one person by one person. Okay? It's going to take you a while, because you look down here and you go, that's not too bad, but that's only 1 out of 6 standards.
And you want to print each one, right? And
you print each standard out, and then at the end of this, now Dr. Smith gave me the links, but he gave me one of these links wrong. When you get, if you're real proactive and you get down here to this dispositions link at the bottom, he gave me the standards link again. So in the next 2 days, by Monday for sure, I'll have that fixed. So if you're all sitting there doing that during the Nebraska game, don't do that one. That's you're going to be doing the same one twice. You'll figure it out when you see the same questions twice with that. Questions on doing that. I just wanted you to get this far into it, because if you can find this and click these things open and get to them, they're there and there for you. Yes, ma'am?
They all seem to be linked to standard one.
They all may be standard one.
They have been. I've been trying to do it.
Yeah, they're all linked to
Well,
standard
we will get this done shortly. I'll see Dr. Smith in the morning. We got all the links, so it won't take us but a minute to relink those things. But I just wanted to make sure you knew where in the page and that this is an expectation of this class. I'm not going to go run around and go, oh, she doesn't have hers in. She doesn't get an A in the class. Yeah, but it'll come back to be something that you'll miss later on in the program if you don't have it. So there it is, and I will fix all those links. I didn't try fix it. Look, I didn't go into them till 3 o'clock this afternoon, which was too late to do anything by that point. Okay. I also wanted to point out to you that there is a box there for writing support. As you're doing that issues paper, I've gone in and found some good links to how to link to our library. This right down here is a good one. If it says, I don't even know what APA stands for, and you're telling me you want me to use APA, this is probably the fastest way to go in and see how that actually works, and it actually has some other writing support with it as well. So that's over there under writing support. But these links that you can that are underlined are actually some really pretty nice support documents to help if there's some things in writing that you want to delve into more deeply. I do have up decision making, which is next week's class. It's not all up there yet, and you'll know that because there's no place to turn the assignment in. Again, I'm going to be working on getting all of those things turned over. It's part of it is up, so if you're trying to get in and get going with things, the first section of it is all there. I'm going to suggest in this one that you find yourself 3 times to do it because it'd be an awfully long one sit. So I'm making it in 3 parts. And if you think about it and doing it in 3 different sections, I think you'll be fresher and able to go with it, because these are some pieces that go with the book. It'll tell you which pages in the book it matches up to. So these pages will go with this piece. And they are again, this class goes over all of the standards. So one of these chapters is about school law. You're going to take a whole class in school law. I don't need to go deeply into it. But if you don't understand why some of the things are the way they are, this is time to become somewhat more aware of what some of these other issues are. So, our timeline going forward. Tonight I'm going to be giving you the style piece, and style and conflict are on my agenda for tonight. Then next week is this one. And we do not meet. It'll all be here. And again, you'll give me the little ABC dealy bob that you send in at the bottom, and I give you your 2 points, and we're all good with things.
That's the long one. 13.
13, and it is long. There are 3 sections. I'm sure you probably found the organizational one long. This one's even slightly longer than that one. So that's why I'm saying 3. Because again, you only doesn't have 2 weeks to do it. The next week's Thanksgiving. So you're going to have time in there. I figured rather than I took a piece out of this week's lesson and put it on here because this week I want to help you with the inbox activity that's coming up. So I thought you'd rather watch a video here and you feel confident with the inbox tonight. So there's some reasons why that one's a little bit longer. Doesn't mean it's not good. So let's talk about the inbox. And it is, and by the way, I'm done with you looking. If you can get in and get to that survey, and you don't need that for anything else, I'm done with what you probably need a computer for tonight. Let's talk about the inbox for a moment. When you took that first test, You had to memorize all these things and truths and falses. Well, it wasn't that. It's matching things and all. I hope that you will notice that this last test, that I didn't call a test, but counted as a test, called case study, you picked up those things. I was reading it, and all of a sudden Herzberg had hit me right across one of the, those same theories were coming back around again. And people would talk about, well, she didn't follow the chain of command, and so this is what, And so what I'm looking for now in these assessments is that you're embedding those ideas in. And that's true of the inbox as well. If you go to your handout that says process, the other one, the not tonight one, process motivation theory, and you go to the back section of that, and by the way, this is also up on Blackboard if you don't happen to find this piece is up on Blackboard. I've got a link that says inbox. Rather than do a final where we're writing essays or case studies or those types of things, I have traditionally done an in-basket. And I have said to my colleagues that at the end of the in-basket, I can tell you who's ready to be hired. Now, I don't know how to measure that really, but to me, it's where you can start to see who's got this figured out and how the problem solving, the decision making, all of these conflicts and things that are going on at the same time work with the underground of why we're doing this. So this is what you're seeing in front of you as for directions is not the directions that I use. I just pulled this out of a book. So let me help you with the directions of what I'm going to ask you to do. You're going to be a person, in this case you're going to be Dr. Chris Allen, and you were a teacher, it says, and all this is what you're going to play with. When the assistant principal left, you got the job. After 4 days on the job, you had to be away from school because of an illness. Now it's Saturday morning, October 2nd. You've returned to check your email, telephone. So this is your inbox. This is all the stuff that was left for you on October 2nd. Now, people say to me at this point, that's ridiculous. There wouldn't be 15 things like this to handle after being gone 4 days. And the answer is, yeah, that's ridiculous. There'd probably be twice as many. The ridiculous part is you would know all these people and you would have been a part of this story as it developed all the way along instead of saying, okay, here's Mark, do this, You have no idea who Mark is. In reality, you'd been working with Mark for 6 weeks, right? Since school started, and so you know some of those things, and I'm aware of that too. If it's in the story, you can't change it. If it's not in the story, you can't. For example, if it says the children came on the bus, you can't say there's no buses in my school. You can't do that. If it's there and they're on a bus, they got to be on the bus. But if it doesn't say whether it's one of the large, long yellow school buses or it's a van size, that's your call. If it doesn't say, you can play with what your call is. All right? So the instructions are not what we do. In the instructions, after each inbox, it will say 3 things. It will say action. In the action, I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do? And that doesn't mean solve the whole problem. Some of them is throw it away. Could be an answer to one of these inbox things. It's totally irrelevant to anything I'm doing, I could throw it away. So the answer doesn't mean I have to be Superman or Superwoman and solve all these things by myself. The majority of these are going to be call somebody, ask somebody, look something up. If you don't know what to do, the scariest thing is to go out there and jump in with both feet and do something wrong. So the first thing you're going to do is do your homework in a lot of these things. You're going to call the child into the office on Monday. You're going to call the counselor and see what's going on. You're going to read the newspaper and see what's been happening, whatever those things are. So don't think you have to solve it. The action is not solving it. It is a purposeful action of something you're going to do soon. How am I going to start solving this? The second part after the action will say theory. In that case, you're going to use a theory or a concept. That's why you're bringing that paper in that's got all those notes over that, so you can go, okay, what theory could work with this thing? Because otherwise, in 90 minutes, you can't think of all, you'll think of 2 over and over again, that if your brain's like mine, but you won't think of all of the different ones. So that helps to say, oh yeah, I could use power for this one, or emotional intelligence would work on this one. So the second thing you do is you put the theory, and so far you have no points for your story, because all kinds of actions are right, and all kinds of theories are right. Right or wrong comes in the third piece, which is explain. Tell me in a couple phrases or a sentence, how does that theory help you figure out what to do? So let's try one. On your in basket here, let's do item number 2, because I have never met a school leader that hasn't had this problem every fall and every spring.
When you said about the handout, you said with the notes all over, is it just this blank
Yep, that's
one,
it.
or we can write on it?
You are to write anything you want to
Okay.
on it, either electronically or in pencil. You leave it blank and turn it in blank, and you can make your own.
Okay, so we can
So you can reformat it, turn it the other way, write it in .2 font. I don't care what you do,
As
but you
long as
get
I
one
have
piece
one
of paper. And the reason for the one piece of paper is I don't want you to have a whole book that you have to go through like another book. I want it to be the key, memory things. Secondly, that also should go into your box that you're keeping, so that when you do comps at the other end, you already got that stuff that you could just bring it back. I can't tell you how many people come to comps and say, that paper we did, do you still have? And by the way, you have to bring your own. You cannot say, Amber's going to create one and she's going to pass it out to everybody in the class. Then only Amber did the learning. So everybody's got to do their own. I don't care if you draw little stick people on it. I don't care if you write it in Spanish. I don't care. But it's got to be your own. Okay? So let's do number 2. All right, so this was a telephone message. It was in your box. It's from Mr. Yeager. It's 9 o'clock on Friday. Yesterday after school, 2 students kicked a soccer ball into his yard, of course, from your school, of course, and smashed right through his roses to get the ball. And he wants you to return his call as soon as possible. Okay? First thing to do, and it always isn't the first thing, is the first thing to do is decide, do you have a theory in your mind that's going to fix this? Like, you're going to, or do you know the action? Sometimes doing one first or the other is better. But let's, in this case, try the action. Just write down in very few words. You see, you don't have much space. Write in a very few words. What would you do about this? Now, obviously, you probably do about 3 things, but what's the one you're going to do when you get this?
Will the action always be one thing?
I'm looking for one thing, because you know what? You give yourself too much rope when you say 2 or 3 things and one of them is off point. You gave yourself too much rope to hang yourself. So you just give yourself one, and then you can focus. Even though you may do 3 things, what's one? So help us by shouting out some things to help one another. What's something you might do or I might do if we were a leader in this situation? Call the parents of the kids, okay? What's another one?
Return the phone call.
Return the phone call to the gentleman. What's another thing you could do?
Worry about something else.
Put it low priority and not return the phone call. Give it to the custodian. Give it to the teacher of the students to handle.
Call the students.
Call the students themselves.
Talk to the teacher if they saw it.
Talk to see who saw it, safety patrols or the bus drivers or whoever that might be, that look for witnesses for what went on. You could get on the announcements and tell everybody to not do that kind of thing anymore. All of those answers are okay. Some of them are not as good as others in terms of what the consequences are going to be. If I go after and I start calling parents before I really know what was going on, I could really get myself in trouble if I found out on Monday that the names of the students that the man thought he saw go through the yard and the students that really were there, and I get some kids in trouble with their parents and it really was somebody else. So some of them are not as good of an answer as the others, but that's not the point. Okay, the point is what the theory is. So if I said the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to call Mr. Yeager. So I wrote down, call Mr. Yeager. I can do that Saturday morning, can't I? I mean, he's home, I can call him. What's my theory or concept that I could use to figure this out? Give me something that I could use, a reason that I would do this out of emotional intelligence. Empathy. What am I, if I'm going to use empathy then, what would I use for a phrase or a sentence to explain how empathy is going to help this situation? I'll give you one. I want this gentleman to know that I understand that there's a problem. That's empathy. That doesn't mean I'm going to solve it or I'm going to, get the kids in trouble or anything, but if I just leave him out there thinking I don't care and I don't understand, I'm probably going to have a madder person the next time. So empathy. So here we go. Call Mr. Yeager. Empathy. I want him to understand that I know that there is a problem. Because we're going to talk about conflict. That's probably pretty helpful. Okay, so what if instead of that I'm going to call I'm going to leave a memo for the teacher that was on duty that night? What's a theory I could use, or a concept or a word that I could use to help me figure out why would I call the teacher that was on duty?
Attribution theory?
I don't want to have, okay, so if I used attribution theory, I do not want to blame the wrong person for the wrong thing and get myself in conflict trouble again. Some of these guys, boy, we better learn about conflict tonight. A lot of these have to do with conflicts, don't they? How about if I said I was going to call the students to my office first thing Monday morning? What power could I use to say that one? Illegitimate power. I'm the person that's got the buck stops here with me. I got to take care of it. Okay, that's it. You don't write big paragraphs on these things. Okay, so I'm going to let you try a different one with your table group now. Go in at the next page over. The next page over has 4 different items, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Choose one with your table group. Have everybody try to solve it and see how you come together with that. Okay, choose 3, 4, 5, or 6 with your table, and your table solves that one.
And will our responses be this short?
Yes,
blank,
they will be
blank,
short.
blank.
They will be blank. When you're doing 15 of them, you only have time for blank, blank, blank.
Was it during... Which section did we talk about attribution theory?
It was right before the test. It's emotional intelligence. Fundamental attribution theory says when I'm blaming somebody else, I blame their own person. They're lazy, they're dumb, they're whatever. I'm blaming the wrong thing when I should be saying, how can I help the environment what's around them so that they're successful instead of just saying they're that kind of a person.
Okay. My actions, you're blaming them. And my calendar.
You give the attribution to the person, and then you can't fix. If they're lazy, how do you fix lazy?
I don't know, I think I have to all assistants and the assistant superintendent, so that person's above me. They say they want me there, right?
Yeah, but you can go.
Personal office. So you can walk there a lot. So I was put it in my calendar. My actual why? And then I just right away put that in my calendar. I don't know. Why would that be my action? I mean, hierarchy business. I would.
I said observe the classroom here. Yeah. There you go.
Power.
1 minute.
Yeah, and he or she has legitimate power.
I mean, I think you could also do
I think it might be more than that.
you know.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you say theory, we can pick a concept, right?
Just go one.
So it doesn't have to be the theory, it can be one of the concepts, like the managerial
I got something that I
that.
didn't
I'm the assistant. So I deal with,
Okay, if you'll end with the thought that you're on, please. I have questions coming out of this now that you've tried it. Looking for questions now that you've tried it. Okay, you have a complete set here. There is another complete set on the inbox page from Madison High School, which are a little bit more complex than what these are. Mine are not that complex because I want people to be in and out of things as they go. So there's a lot of people that go home and try doing all of these, but when you try doing all of these, there's a couple of things I want you to remember. One is, remember what your role is in the school. If your role is the assistant principal, you aren't going to start to fire somebody. You got a principal there that's going to have some, remember what your role is. If you're the principal, there's times when you need to check with the superintendent's office on things. You can't solve everything by yourself. I also remember roles as I evaluate this. When I get a paper from someone whose background is in elementary or early childhood, they're going to say some things differently than someone who's used to working with high school seniors. Because the soccer ball through the roses looks different to somebody that's working with a high school soccer team than somebody that's working with 5-year-olds. It's going to look different for somebody that's working in a small private school than someone who's working in a large public school. So I also remember role as you go through this, and remember that your perspective is built by your experiences, and I allow for that as well. Secondly, I really say use a theory twice. Do not overuse a theory, and the one that gets used the most is that legitimate power, chain of command, do it because I'm the boss type of stuff, structural. If you're going to say that, and I'm going to do that because it's my boss and he told me to. You know how many people get in trouble using that excuse in this world? You've seen them. They're on the national news. That's not probably the best reason to do something. Yes, you're going to follow policy, and yes, you're going to follow leaders and so forth, but sometimes there's a better way of doing it. So if you're doing it over and over and over, you're saying something about your leadership style that I think in reality you would not do. So don't use it as a crutch in this either. So I say use the theory twice. If you used empathy once, you can use empathy again, but then go to something else. Go to even within emotional intelligence, go to social skills instead of empathy the next time, because that variety gives you what I'm trying to practice in this is that you're changing how you're looking at things. I'm going to look at this one through power. I'm going to look at that one through emotional intelligence. So that's why I'm trying to force that. Third thing I want to point out is if you read when you read this, you should read the entire thing before you solve any of them. You should not do what we just did, because if you did the story about Rocky Bell, he shows up in other stories too. You'll know more about him if you read all the other stories. Marilyn Pickett, talks about, look at that, number 6, in this Thursday, my teacher, Mr. Bell, made me stand up. Well, Mr. Bell is the same teacher as with number 3, Dr. Allen. I don't normally complain about, okay, so the names of the people matter because the same assistant principal that's causing you problems in story 2 may be the one who's tattling on somebody else in story 5. So you need to read all the stories first. And even if it's the same thing, so if in story 2, the assistant principal suspended a child, and you solved that, and then over here in story 8, the mother's calling about the suspended child, you can't say, oh, well, I solved that 2 stories ago. Again, there will be something else. Remember, each one of these things, there'll be many things that you're going to do. And all of them can't be done on Monday morning. You wouldn't survive till noon if you tried to solve all these things immediately. Some of the things that you'll be doing will be long distance. I'm going to go in and talk to that teacher someday when I get to it about this. They all aren't crises. Finally, I hope that you saw why you wanted to put some words on your note card. It's your note page, whatever you call that thing. Yeah, hopefully you saw that if I had more of those theories at my hand with more of those words underneath it, that I could start to think about some of those terms and some of those ideas that I don't have to spend my time thinking up theories or recalling theories. I could spend my time on my explanation, which is what's going to get me my point. Okay? All right. If you have questions along in the meantime, give me a call, and I will not be answering my phone the week of Thanksgiving, and so it's like before that and after that week I am kind of off the grid. I may be grading papers, but I'm not sitting in this office that week, so you won't get a fast response on Thanksgiving week. But this next week and after and the week before. And by the way, if you can't come in and take inbox on the night we're doing it, it's there whenever you want to have 90 minutes to do it. And that doesn't mean you can do it at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, but you may take it at a different time as long as it takes 90 minutes to do. And people usually take at least 60 minutes of the 90 minutes. And some people, I pull it out of their hands on the 90th minute. And it's not because they aren't done. It just always can be better. You know who you are. Anyway.
Hey, Dr. Kaiser, that will start Monday that week.
Yep.
It'll be ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's ready right now.
And how long does it extend through? Like,
you want to grade at the end of the class, you better have it in.
okay.
So, yeah, you can see it's quite, it's quite open. Because there's nothing that she can tell her about, it's not that kind of a test like that multiple choice test was kind of thing. So
like you're saying by the end of December 18th is your...
I have a date. Is that the date that's
Yeah,
dropped?
all papers
Yep,
and
that's it.
products.
That's it.
Okay. I feel better.
All right. All right, let's talk about using style, and then you've got a handout that looks like that. So you can put that other handout where you're going to take it home with you because you know you're going to need it.
Keep out the using style.
Using style. I'm going to make this table out of the way. I feel like I put that off for a minute. Okay. You are going to find this in your textbook, so hopefully you're going to write some notes to yourself, and I'm going to continue to add resources to the Blackboard page for this because I've got some really good ones and I just haven't got them all up yet. But I thought after I talk tonight, I'll know which ones people are interested in having more of. But while it's not in the textbook, I think actually it's all the way through all of the textbooks in leadership. And it's through all of the textbooks on teacher preparation, and all of the self-help books, and all of the parenting books. The idea of style threads through all of those things. If I were to be asked to give a TED Talk, this is the one that I would polish up and give. because I think it's what, when I look at this, if I were to say, how can we help? How can we help teachers teach better? How can we help administrators understand the teachers that are in there? How can we help those children that just don't seem to be, they seem to be marching to a different drummer? How can we help parents that don't understand their children? You know, those types of things. I think this is a really important way of doing all of those things. And I have talked this talk to everything from high school students to pre-service teachers, first-year teachers, in-service teachers, to graduate classes. You know, I'm spreading this word, but I'm not the one that started up with it. It's been around for a long time. It comes from the work of Carl Jung, Jung, who you may recognize that name. He's been around a long time, and a lot of people use his work as a basis. And the next person that I see as a great refiner of what I'm talking about is Anthony Gregoric, and that's who I used an unscientific method of his, where you were making that square thing like that. That is an unscientific Gregoric indicator. If you really take the Gregoric, you have to pay like $9 a copy to give the real instrument to each person. And I think most of us know ourselves well enough that it's not worth the $9 to do it, and we can do it without actually using their instrument. The person that I like the work of, if you say, I love this, I want to know more about it, the book that I would send you to is called So Each May Learn, S-O, So Each May Learn by Harvey Silver. I think he does the best job of translating this into the realities of American school life that I can see. And by the way, he's a hoot. If you ever get a chance to see him talk, you'll never forget it in your life. But let's go back to Jung. What he said is he was looking at style. Now, sometimes when you hear style, and I have some of this up on the internet, they talk about whether somebody's a visual learner or a kinesthetic learner, and they talk about that as style. Well, that's a type of style. There are some people that are more extroverts and introverts, and there's the big five personality, and that's a kind of style. This kind of style has to do with how you organize things in your, not really in your brain, in your mind. And what Carl Jung says is we go back and forth with these, but there's certain neighborhoods we like to live in, and we just journey to the other ones once in a while when we need to or experiment and want to. And one of the ways we are different from one another is in how we process what we understand. We know when we're trying to understand something, how do we like to learn it? And some of us are very sequential. They're the people that like the outline. They're the children that I taught that they wanted the agenda on the board. They're the people in my faculty that go into the meeting and look for the agenda, and if it's not there, what are we going to do, you know? All right? And then there are the people that are random. And the random doesn't mean that you have no order whatsoever. Random sounds like you just went in and threw the papers every which way, you know. Random means that it's not sequential. For example, I'm, not surprisingly to any of you, very random. I'm not very sequential. Well, maybe you say, wait a minute, you got all these folders. I cope really well. Okay? But I'm random. And when I was a teacher, when I was first taught how to teach children to write, I always was taught Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, and I always wrote the paper first and then wrote my outline afterwards just to match it, you know, and you've got kids like that too. And they came out with graphic organizers, and I thought the heavens had opened up because all of a sudden you could map things and they went in other directions, and it wasn't step 1 to step 2 to step 3. Harvey Silver calls these people the filers and the pilers. Okay? And too much of a good thing is bad in either case, right? I mean, too much piling things around, It does become very random. And too much, I mean, the most sequential person I know, a husband of one of my friends, when they got married, went into their first apartment and alphabetized the cans of the canned goods in the cupboard. Alphabetized it. Well, he could find them then, but she couldn't find anything. She was like, you gotta put the vegetables with, no, A, B. Anyway, by the way, Harvey Silver also says that we are attracted to the opposite. This whole idea that opposites attract is true because we see that they have strengths in areas that we would like to have strengths. We become a couple with that person and spend the rest of our lives trying to make them like us. That's Harvey Silver's statement. You can take it for what it's worth. But anyway. All right, so the opposite continuum here is how we perceive things, how we bring our information in. Some of us are very concrete. Here it is. And some of us are very abstract. We can just think about it, see it in our mind. Concrete to abstract, the story that Harvey Silver tells is you're going to tell somebody how to go someplace that you know how to go but they don't. And you start to tell them. Your abstract people want you just to tell them, go 2 blocks, turn right, so forth. What do your concrete people immediately want you to do? Draw you a map. Okay? So, what you did with your style, and if you aren't done with it, you can finish up as I'm going here. That doesn't bother me. Is you created the neighborhoods. Now, that your graph looks different than this because the axes are different. What you're looking for, though, on your points of that are these letters. CS means you're in this neighborhood. So don't look at your graph as much as look at the letters. So CS are here. CR is concrete random. They live up in this neighborhood. AR is here, and AS is down here. Okay. If you had to choose one of those, and I know some of you aren't there yet, but I'm just going to do a poll of where we are with this. How many of you would say right now that your strongest area is concrete sequential? CS. Just looking for hands. Okay? How many would say it's AR? Abstract random. Okay? How many people would say it's concrete random? All right? And how many would say it's abstract sequential? Interesting. But do you think I ever have asked that question and got this many people in a room and had one of those styles not be represented? Never. Never. After I do this, usually people are like, where can I get this instrument? I'm going to go give this to my kids so that I know that I'm going to teach the abstract randoms this way and I'm going to teach the concrete sequentials. You don't need to do that. You know you got all of them in the room. You've got to reach all those styles. I do, or some of you have fallen asleep. Well, maybe you did, especially after doing all this stuff I've been having you do tonight. But as I'm planning, I should be thinking about these styles as I'm looking at lessons, as I'm looking at how we're going to. Some people liked that multiple choice test better than others. Now, nobody loved it probably, but some of them liked it better than others. Some people would rather do another one of those than the inbox that I have planned for them. It has to do with their style. So, I did a multiple choice. I did a case study. I did a multiple choice. I did a case study. I did an inbox. These people down here are going to take notes. They'll be happy. Intentionally. I didn't do that just randomly, because I'm a random person. I did it intentionally because I'm going to hit somebody's sweet point someplace in that list. So let's talk about those styles. Since I know I need to match all of those, and you know every group that you're in, whether it's it's the congregation in church or the classroom that's facing you or the faculty that you're sitting there looking at. Whatever group that is, there are people that are in these 4 quadrants. Now, generally, if you said, I'm pretty much concrete sequential, if you have a strong second one, it's usually this way or this way. Very, very seldom do we have somebody that says, my 2 strengths are across like this. Why? Because if you're strong across here, what do you have in common between those 2? Sequential, you know.
Mine will.
If it's this way, you're abstract, but you can go, okay? And you can see what you can see the words that go with the strengths of these people, and all of them are good things. Imagine if all of our people in our country were hardworking. Well, yay, we got hardworking people. Conventional, stable, accurate. What are we missing in our culture? The people that are thinking outside the box, the people that are willing to risk and take a leap and invent the new thing that's going to fix. Okay? But what do we have? All those kind of people. They'd be driving all over the sidewalks, and nothing would get done because they'd be arguing about But what if an asteroid hit? They'd be off. We're glad. And by the way, if I'm here, I'm not going to get a leadership team that sits around me that everybody's sitting in the same place. You see, I am here. Hey, Pete, we're here. In fact, I sat in a room like this, and I was the only one in the room like that. Sat there for a week, taking a graduate class on individualization of instruction, and had to put up with people calling me flaky and far out and unorganized and all those kinds of things until they saw me teach, and then they were like, oh, I want to be in your class. Because I was also innovative and adventurous and raised curiosity, and they all of a sudden saw that I didn't let structure go out the window just because I did that. But because I'm up here, who do I have to have be if I'm the superintendent, who needs to be my assistant superintendent? Somebody that's going to keep after all those reports that says, when I do statistics, if it comes within a whole number, I'm okay. It doesn't matter whether it's 84 or 37% at the end of that. Because I want to know, what are we going to do with this? I'm great at writing what's the further research, but I need somebody over here to ground me in the details of what's going on. The same way, if I know that I'm up here and I'm idealistic and I'm going to be real visionary and really charismatic, I need somebody to keep, we're going to do this first and do this second, they keep track and so forth. So you get people that are opposite of you. By the way, that leads to conflict, but if you aren't open to deal with people of different styles, and you shut down people of different styles than your own, you're going to be limited to the limitations of your style. So let me give you by the way, that advisor team site's another place where you can go to get some more about this. So let's talk about who's in these styles and what is about them. Harvey Silver calls the ARs teddy bears. Now, why does he call people that are abstract, random teddy bears? We're going to look back and see their characteristics here a minute. Okay, so what is it about a teddy bear? Teddy bears are... I'm hearing words, but I can't really hear them. Cuddly. They care about... They're soft and they're comforting. And they worry about other people's feelings. They're sensitive. They understand. They come in and they notice when you're having a bad day. And it's good to be around them because they make you feel better. What's bad about a teddy bear? You try to make a teddy bear stand up, it has no shape in it flops around. You can't depend on a teddy bear to be there where it's just too squishy and mushy, and so there's strengths and not strengths to having those. Okay, so the AS he calls the magnifying glass. Why would he call abstract sequential people magnifying glasses? What do you do with a magnifying glass? You look for details. You find out how things, how they work, how they come. You know, you focus in on the important things of what's going on. That sounds really cool. But if I'm out in the sun with the magnifying glass and I focus it out in that sunlight, what can I do? I can burn them. And sometimes abstract sequentials are known to burn the people around them because unlike the people up here that are caring a lot about what the other people think and how they feel, these people are caring about the right answer and not so much about whether that makes you my friend or not. Concrete sequentials are paper clips. What's good about a paper clip? Holds it together, organized, keeps things in order. If you take a paper clip and you start to pull it out of shape, what eventually happens though? Does it ever go back into shape? No. It can only bend so far before it breaks. Okay, again, analogy to people. CRs are slinkies. Okay? If I put a slinky at the top of the stairs, how do I get it to go?
Kick it.
I have to push it, don't I? It doesn't start by itself. Okay? You don't have, it doesn't start by itself. But once it starts, what? It goes and goes and goes and goes. It's hard to stop, too.
At the bottom.
Yeah, something has to stop it, right? I mean, okay, again, it's flexible. It can go in all different shapes. But, again, if I pull it out too far, what happens? If you stretch it too far, it never comes back. You can bend it out of shape and it stays there. In our society, abstract randoms learn friend by friend. It's all about it's why should I learn this? Not why should I learn it because why it's important, but why should I learn this? How is this important to us and our world and my understanding of, okay? They learn friend by friend. What does it mean to me? What does it mean to us? Okay? 35% of our learners are predominantly abstract randoms. And so if you don't tell them why they need to know something, and it isn't because it's on the test, that doesn't hook their hearts, they're lost from you. Abstract sequentials learn doubt by doubt. They want to know what is it. You know, they're the people that were in my stats class with me, and the teacher would write the formula on the board, and I'd copy down the formula, and I'd be happy with it. But they would want to know why that formula worked. And why is it that when you add together the standard deviations, that I'm like, don't ask, don't, you know, I mean, that is so far from my, you know, that was really far from my. 18% of our learners are abstract sequentials, but they're the ones that do figure out what's going on. How does it work? Where is the problem? Concrete sequentials are 35% of our learners, and much more of that of our teachers. When I did this, I was surprised. I'm used to seeing the most hands up for concrete sequential. Why? What's about a concrete sequential that makes them think teaching's a good place to be? What do you do as a teacher? A plan book has little squares in it. Your day has bells to tell you when to do the next thing. The desks sit in. You teach somebody to divide. What do? You teach them the sequence of how we're going to talk about the plot of a story. The plot of the story has a certain pattern to it. We love the patterns, we love the sequence, we love the order of that. And by the way, that's how we teach most as well. Think about the textbooks. They organize, they say what we're going to learn. At the end, there's the review of it's very sequential. Chapter 2 follows Chapter 1. You can't really leap to Chapter 5 or you'll miss what was in Chapter 3 and 4. Everything's very sequential in how we teach. You can't jump into 5th grade math if you don't know 4th grade math. You know, it's all very, very sequential. So the idea is why are concrete sequentials drawn to teaching? Because they did well in school. They did well. School was an easy, interesting place to them. It matched their style, and so they want to spend the rest of their life there. Whereas if these people are disengaged by school, they may be fabulous teachers, but they don't want to do this pattern. Concrete sequentials learn step by step, and concrete randoms learn dream by dream. They're the kid that sits in the corner and you're teaching something and they say, but what if a dinosaur came along? You're like, there's no dinosaurs anymore. But they're putting together, I learned about dinosaurs, I'm reading this book right now about dinosaurs, and I want to know how that fits in this pattern. They're the ones that are able to put some work clothes on their dreams. I mean, but they're good at it. They can actually take, and they're concrete and they're random at the same time. These people love things like, that's why I was so happy when the graphic organizers came in. They love the graphic, but they also want to have something concrete with it. They love projects and inboxes, and you teach the way you like to learn. You teach the way you like to learn. But 12% of our population learns that way. So if I know that, if now I am the leader of the school and I'm going to do professional development, I'm going to do some professional development. I'm going to teach everybody in here about first aid, something generic that we can do. Okay. How am I going to get everybody in the staff? I got all these different styles in here. I'm going to get all this staff to get on board with first aid. I got a 45-minute thing, and I'm going to teach 3 techniques. How am I going to get them all excited about it? Well, what do I got to do for the ARs? How am I going to get a teddy bear interested about first aid? Show how we're going to save lives. We're going to make people feel better. How we're going to, show a little video about, how great this is in terms of helping one another. How you're able to save your, a story about someone being able to save their own father's life or something like that. Story would work when you have to show a video. How am I going to get the abstract sequentials? I can get the abstract sequentials before they ever walk in the room. What am I going to do? Give them an agenda, give them a handout, put things in steps by steps of what it is they're supposed to do. Let them know exactly what it takes to be successful with this. But I also can get a different type of curiosity. I can go after the curiosity about why does this technique work and why is this technique better than that technique and so forth, and have them thinking about, when is doing CPR good and when is it going to be harmful to somebody, those types of things. Okay, concrete sequentials, once again, I can do the step-by-step type of thing and say, here's the handbook on this, and you're going to fill it out as we go along. If you've ever taken a CPR class and stuff, they do that. They teach you, and every once in a while you have to write the stuff in and so forth.
They probably like the wallet card.
Yes, they would. Yeah, and they would like to have, and I'm talking about things that are not technology. That technology fits with all of these things in different ways as well. How about CRs? How am I going to teach CRs so that they want to know? No, I'm not going to bring in a dinosaur to do it on. I mean, these people are not far out. But why would how is somebody who's concrete and random going to like to do, I just gave you the answer, CPR or Heimlich maneuver or those kind of things? What are they going to want? They're going to want to have their hands on, they're going to want to try it out, and they actually would like somebody to try it out on them to see how it works. And they would also like to figure out that, they'd like to make posters to show what they learned. They like to put a website together. Gee, I don't know anybody that likes to do that. That is going to try to take this learning and make it concrete and visual and hands-on and those types of things as well. So there's all different ways that you can go after learning like this, and I've been kind of talking to the teacher in each one of us so far. I said a little bit about leader, but even so, when I was talking about teaching faculty, it really was no different than I was teaching 12th graders or college graduates. I was saying pretty much the same thing. The important thing, though, to think about with leadership, and I'm going to come back to it because I'm going to show you something else, teacher world, but in the back of my mind, when I'm done with this in about 4 minutes from now, what you're going to be doing with your table is be talking about what your style is and how are you going to connect with people of other styles. You see, I was a cooperating teacher, and I was this person up here, okay? And I got a student teacher that was this person down here, okay? How did I communicate to this person? How did that person figure out me? If I'm this person over here, and I am the department head, but most of my faculty is sitting over here, this person may be calling these people uncaring. These people may be calling this person wishy-washy. How are we going to communicate so that we know what do you do to get your style across to other people, and how do you also accommodate all of those styles with yours so that they don't cause you craziness? Okay, that's in the back of your mind. You're going to be incubating that thought. I'm going to go back and show you something that I think is way underutilized. And you can Google this. It's format. The number 4, M-A-T. Format. Anybody had format in their teaching preparation? Usually I have a few. Bernice McCarthy's format takes these styles and says, this is how you plan a unit. This is how you plan an in-service. This is how you plan a lesson. That you go around and you teach through the styles. Now this one up here is AR, right? We're going to start with connecting. What does this mean to me? Because even if that isn't my style, don't you want to know why you should be learning things no matter what your style is? That's kind of helpful to know. And then you're going to come down here in your lesson and you're going to teach the real what of it. What's the objective? What is it that what's important to know? And then we're going to practice whatever it is, step by step. And eventually we're going to create it into some kind of product that makes some sense in the world, in the wider world of things we've learned before, or things, other subjects or those types of things. That's the very basis of it. The other thing that she does, however, is she takes each one of those and she chops it in half. And she does one that is more concrete, and the other one is less. And so in this case, the first thing she's going to do is connect the students in some personal way. She might show them something. She might have them have an experience. She might read them a poem. You know, whatever those things are. She might have to ask a question and have them brainstorm things. But the reason is, why does this matter to us? And then they talk about how that makes them feel, what they're worried about, there's some way that they interact with each other, which is also important for those ARs, isn't it? Not just sitting like you are tonight and not hardly talking to each other. ARs want to be a part of what's going on. Then you use some kind of way to connect them to really understand what the concept is, and you provide, so this is when they read the textbook, this is when you direct, instruct, this is when you do the actual, this is what it is, everybody. CRs like, tell me how to do it, let's practice it, let's make sure it's happening. Then they explore this, that they get more fluent with this, that this is going from multiple choice to inbox, first you just know it, and now you start to apply it, and over here you really apply what it is you're doing. There's great examples if you look at the format website of all different kinds of topics. Why do I show it to you when I'm not in teacher college? I'm in education college, but I'm not in teacher prep. Because coaching, leading, if you're going to be an instructional leader and somebody's is just doing page 32 and then they're doing page 33 and they can't figure out how to organize, they're only teaching to the students that are in their style, and the others are disconnecting from what they're doing. Most styles like to teach with this because there's some things about it. and the nice thing about it is if you teach around the circle, people will put up with stuff that's not in their style or try it out if eventually you're going to get back to them again. They'll put up with doing, okay, I'll do the outline. Because tomorrow we're going to do poetry, or, that sometimes you're hitting in their cycle. So, knowing this about instruction, now we're taking it to leading land and saying, knowing your own style and your own strength, know that you're going to lead from that strength. By the way, there's another objective of what I'm doing with this. If you know your own strength, you won't just don't unconsciously live in it. When I first took the Grigori style delineator, I was off the chart on concrete random, and over the years I've come toward the middle, and it's not because I'm mellowing and aging. It's because I am intentionally going after these things. How do I connect with this? Well, you know what? I'm going to put when I start a class, I put a calendar for the entire class. Because I know what I'm doing December 4th. You'll know when we get there is what I'd really like to do. And surprise, this is what we're going to do tonight. This is fun for me too. And some of the people would just hate that. No, and everybody's got a plan more than that. So I've intentionally moved myself toward the middle by doing some of these things. And so I am saying every one of ours is going to look different because it's going to start from the quadrant we identify with and talk about what am I going to adapt in my relationships with people. Remember, I can control myself, I can influence others. How am I going to do it so that, if my team's here and I'm here, they don't call me flaky and I don't call them step-by-step rigid? How do I accommodate? How do I articulate those types of things? So you've got 11 minutes now. Now your table could figure out that you're going to take 3 or 4 minutes and break first and then come back and do it because you've been here a long time. Or you can say, let's get it done and spend the rest of the time till 6:30 in break. And I don't care. Accommodate your own style. It will be fine. But when we come back at 6:30, you should have some feelings about where you fit and how you can lead all styles.
No, I was.
Yeah. Which one are you?
I would say
And I'm a pretty I'm in those two.
It happens. This is not scientific. You really get the validated study that they did. You show up down here. But that happens because this is just an internet-based thing.
Good for I was like, am I?
No. In reality, all of these things are arranged. This may really be down here, this may be out front. Just in a range.
Okay.
But it does say is, according to this is flex.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Flex.
Okay. So, well, I think things like traits of
For AS, could you like
the traits that are with each of these, like looking at coordinating behavior traits, that's going to affect your leadership because
it's hard to do that
very leader, professional in nature because you care and you want I guess.
for CS, give like CS maybe give like a visual next to like how you're
And then like same with I didn't have any of those which are the more structured very similar to like the 30 she was well, that thing doesn't match this thing.
I'm these two, and I was
I feel like with yours, like your higher one, it would be like how you motivate yourself and impact your leadership will have those characteristics because you're like the instinctive, like that would be like the interpersonal. I'm these two. Yes, these two.
oh my gosh,
You're the diamond era. Yes, I'm these are definitely I always try to connect them. Very yeah, stop. Oh, we have to do it, so there we go. But I was trying to lead it back into and I've got these words that we just want to do. I guess the question that I hear is how to style like if there's this area in your leaders, encourage them to pursue this extra opportunity more development pieces like that. Yeah. So like staff development, anything that requires your staff. This is going to be your job.
It's kind of, yeah, that's let me guess. Okay, I was 44, 34. You know where I was the other day? Whitetail Creek.
I think that's right now.
Because I know that I am immensely.
Yeah.
Okay, so then on like 160 or on like 180.
But that was my, I know.
Or even if and you're like, what you guys do? Yes. That's what I have. Because I'm this.
Well, all the schoolers just have like my
I know.
Of these crazy traits that totally go against mine. Sort of like, I'm here, more creative. These two go together pretty well. They're supposed to be more organized.
You know, I say that every it's Sunday night at 8 o'clock. That's not hard though because you're all kind of new so it's hard to
Oh, well.
live with.
Oh.
That's how.
There was a test.
We all will be at it.
Just put our, she had, well, I don't know, put our support. We have a which are that's how these were my scores, so I was so sure. And then in thinking about what they would like, what would be those things that you
It's
could do
more
that
of like
relate to
they want.
for me, what I thought was, because this is my heart, yours was very much tried to be more creative. I'm not gonna be quick. No, that's what I, in making decisions, I like to work on my creativity and stuff.
Diane, yes. I'm
No.
gonna say to you. Well, Megan has to do that. So then. Or AR.
What?
Okay, I'll say to you.
What do you do?
Survey? Yeah. Yes.
Are you?
Really?
Team like. I mean, you're all the
So here's her homepage, and then we're down here. Yes, however, oh God, these are all I know. It's all good. I missed the last one.
And I just didn't
But let me show you. So this is the first one, okay? Standard one, it's vision for learning. So you go through, you do that. So do you think you're good at this? Do you think you're not? Okay? And I want to get all this down. And hit submit. You can only find the problem now. Go back to the surveys. Where it says it's supposed to be standard two. And they all look just the same. So the first one, and wait, and the same here too. If it's still seeing it, don't do it until, okay? Right. No, once you're in it, go back. This was the first, yes, this is what she did.
One day I'm like, I'm gonna be so your car is dirty. You look like you're very iced over. That might not be.
No, we just got married in the summer.
They're actually
Did you guys get that? Or did we just get it today? No, last year.
I was
Yes. Thank you for remembering.
And then would you have not going over
I want to talk about it.
Are you trying to get this goal by
I had 2 Oscars and 2 sisters for March. Oscar S and Oscar G. Now I just talked about the same shit. Like those 2 things. Do you know if you're having a beer?
I'm all about, I'm just
Did you have a party? I'm glad.
I feel now I'm a student.
I've always felt that. I just felt that they weren't recognizing you well enough. So good.
Quick question for the internship. But like if I specifically work with him for an hour a day, I was thinking an hour a day. No, she wants and I was thinking about this, thinking, oh, he's definitely down here. So he comes down behind me a little bit, and I'm like, let's just do let's transition seamlessly. Everything like that, you know. And I'm more.
That's exactly
Jump in.
what
Yeah. I've told my husband he checks with me before anything he does. And I'm like, just do it.
I changed it over. Automatically.
It is.
He
just got out of the steam.
And I forced myself to do it, and I didn't tell
Oh,
him.
no, you're fine. I just didn't know if I saw this because my work side is here.
I'm trying to get older ones to care about and then now it's like so
Natural
it's generations. So your year of 15, you do the driver's ed so that you're ready on the day
Oh, good. There you go. She's in the class.
Yeah. No, he hasn't done it. Right. Thank you. He hasn't done his job. On the other hand, again, they have some so whenever he needs to write, I just
But I was just looking at it in terms of this whole look at the teacher and question of incentives, joy, you know, could we have children PTSO or something, how students, so I was looking at that extra push that is just a regular concept. Because there is a reason for our parents like that. So something's going on.
I admit that's a part of it. Fairly rusty at it. I'm thinking about the
I wonder, of course, it's the news, you know, they got
But we don't have that. Yeah, so that's what makes it.
Okay, we're going into conflict now, which is what we all want to hear at this time of night. But if you aren't in conflict, you're in denial or you're in decay. If you aren't in conflict, if there is no conflict in your life, you're just right now you'd be a puddle there on the floor, because there's always conflict when things are trying to get better. Different people have different ideas. Different people have different styles. So in our society, conflict sounds like a bad thing. It sounds like in a leadership program, we would say, let's get rid of all conflict. The best school leader has a school with everybody singing the same song, and we're all happy, and there's never a referral to anybody. You know, it's just the teachers all get along. That's not human. And so if I see that something's going on, like pretending, or there's something going on at the bottom of the iceberg, because that's not human to have that happen. And it's not even good for that. The conflict is perceived differences. It isn't necessarily bad. You know, if I cooked you dinner and you didn't like it, that we might have a conflict. Doesn't mean that we're going to have an argument or, you know, but it's a difference. Perceived difference resulting in interference and opposition. So because you didn't like the dinner that I cooked, you aren't going to eat it. Okay, now how you decide to deal with that, you know, can hurt my feelings, can cause you to have no dinner, can cause us to have an argument. I mean, you know, there's lots of different ways of the conflict does not have to be negative. It doesn't have to be shouting and trouble and writing letters to the public pulse. And I mean, that's not all the conflict. Dysfunctional conflict is what that is. Conflict that has gone into a place where it is not helping anybody. But there is this other thing called functional conflict. If we all got together and decided what would be the best time to have summer school this summer for our students, we would all have different days, times, months of how we do this, lengths of time. And this discussion that we would have as we came to conclusions with what we were going to do, some people would win and some people would lose, but along the way, that discussion would help us hopefully help more students and have a good reason for what we're doing instead of just doing what we did last year. So functional conflict is things that we disagree about, but we're doing it in such a way that we're helping that shared goal that we're getting at all together. This is another way of looking at conflict. If we have too much conflict, it takes over. Everything else suffers. All people are talking about is the conflict. That's all they're thinking about. They don't care about what's going on. So you have a family that's in real strife. They aren't going to care about whether their kid got a 5 on a or a F on a test, because there's so much other conflict going on in that family. That isn't even raised to the level of noticing. Okay? On the other hand, if you have no conflict in a group, performance also suffers. Because something's happening. Either people want to get along more than they want to do well, so they don't care about how well we do, just so long as we get along. Or they don't care about the organization at all. They don't care about the goals at all. So they aren't going to, they can say, you know, I can see this company's doing the wrong thing, but not my company, I don't care. They won't raise their hand and say, we're doing it wrong. Because they would rather just get along than have any conflict. If you want to have top performance, you have conflict, even if you have to make it. What do you mean make conflict? People constantly make conflict. For example, Pepsi-Cola company notoriously was the second most populous, got the most money for selling soda. They have one mission statement: beat Coke. Common enemy. They created a common enemy. They now are worldwide doing all kinds of things. I heard some kind of weird flavors of Coke, of Pepsi and Coke coming out. I don't even want to know, but they're creating conflict. People are talking about it with the new flavors. Their employees are trying to compete against another group. Now, you don't have to compete against somebody else. You can beat your own time. If you're trying to become a better athlete, you don't necessarily have to beat the other team. You can also beat your best record. That inner conflict is just as important as the external. But you got to have some, or people just don't even care, and your place is decaying. What does that tell you? So if you walk into a school and there's conflicts and you're in charge, that's okay. Your job is to make them be functional and not dysfunctional. That helps you make your school better and not tear it apart. But if it's not okay to disagree, if it's not okay to raise your hand and say, I think we're doing stuff wrong, you're very likely going to fall into some pitfalls that you didn't need to fall into. Sources of conflicts are very often communication differences. It's amazing how many conflicts I've mediated in my career where two groups thought they were absolutely polar opposites from one another. They were talking about the same thing using different words, and when we could actually communicate what it was that they really wanted, they realized they were both on the same side. And it was how they were expressing what they were doing that made it seem that they were opposite from one another. This isn't just language. Very often it's conceptual ideas. It isn't, because these people speak French and these people speak Spanish. Yeah, that makes it harder too. But that's not what we're talking about in communication. Structural differences can be real structures. I taught in a building back in my teaching days where one wing was all of the kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers, and the other wing was all the 4th through 6th grade teachers. I taught there a year, and I didn't even know the names of the people in the other wing. We ate lunch with our wing. We had playground with our wing. And so anytime we get together for a faculty meeting, it was primary versus intermediate. We didn't even know each other. Became an administrator in that same building, immediately mixed those things up. 2nd grade ate lunch with 5th grade. 1st grade ate lunch with... First of all, that helped the cafeteria troubles a whole lot because you didn't have all your intermediate or all your little kids on the playground or in the lunchroom at the same time. They balanced each other out. But all of a sudden, every committee had to have people from different grades on it, and there was reasons that people had to communicate. And the structural differences were still there. The wings were still there. But by doing other kind of structures of committees and schedules and those types of things, those are just as powerful. Structural differences can be different groups, different. I mean, if you never meet with a group, you don't know them, and fear of the unknown is one of the biggest fears there are. You know, that until you are in proximity with groups and with people, you can't really understand well, and you are going to have more conflicts. And by the way, there's the whole style thing. There's the personal differences. I like the lights low, you like them high. I like the temperature high, you like it low. I like music playing when I study, you don't. You know, some of those things cause great struggles and stresses for people, and you have to figure those things out. And it's true of organizations too. It isn't lights and those types of things, but it's sharing resources, those types of things. I think this is probably one of the most interesting pictures that I have in the whole semester. These are the stages of a conflict. So I'm going to do kids on the playground, okay? Because that was my life as an administrator. Every day I hated that time after lunch because I'd come back in from duty and there they'd all be lined up on the bench, you know. Okay, so you got this picture. I'm going to run to the next slide. You have that, should have that somewhere. Or do you have this slide? You have that slide. Okay, then I'm going to, you can do it off of that. I'll do it off of this one so you can see I'm style. Graphic, literal, you know. I got the two styles there, so I'll do it off of graphic. Okay. Two kids are having a knockdown, roll around on the grass, fight. Which stage are they in their conflict? They're manifest. Okay, they're rolling around on the ground. They're in a manifest conflict. There it is, open warfare. When they're sitting on the bench waiting for me to pass judgment on them, that's the aftermath. Yeah, that's always fun. You know, they're all... Okay. Before they got to rolling around on the playground, they got mad at each other. Felt is when your emotions become attached to what's going on. Before they got mad at each other, they realized he has the football that I want, or she's doing this, or she called, you know, they realize there's something going on. Sometimes these things happen within a spark of one another. You can't really stop from between one of those, you know. I see it, I hate it, you know, right? And it happens, you know, just that fast. Latent means, you know, if you're going to put the cat and the dog in a room by themselves together, you won't be surprised if there's going to be trouble, especially if they've had trouble before. Latent is when you can see, I can just look, putting those three kids at the table together, they're never going to, you know, it's going to be trouble before lunch is over. You just know. Okay. So as the leader of the playground brood, when do I want the playground people, the adults, to come to me with a conflict? I know I'm going to get them down here. When do I want those adults to come and say, hey, there's a conflict going on?
Well, even latent.
Latent if you can. You know, we're having this trouble every day. You know, it's because these, or, you know, I want you to know these kids had trouble in class this morning before, or whatever. Latent is great because then you can play secret agent and make things happen. Oh, would you take this to the office and go, thank you for helping me. I go, good, you were on the playground today. You know, you can do things that can help behind the scenes at latent. You know, you can make things happen. That's not always possible, though. My playground duty people were probably not good at picking those things up either, and they weren't teaching them in the morning, so they didn't know. So they weren't able to help me too much on latent. The teachers could have, but the playground people weren't there to know it's about to happen again. Okay, so then when do I want it? At perceived. Why do we want it at perceived before felt?
To intervene.
When people are out of control mad, there's no way to, Okay, let's reason this thing out, children, adults, whatever. When people are felt, they entrench in their position. At perceived, we can talk about it. So this is the teacher coming down to me saying, that teacher next to me is playing music loud every time. And you know, it's just a time when I'm trying to do my best teaching every day, then she turns the music on. I got so much perceived stuff. But, you know, I'll take that. Come on, bring it on. Tell me. Tell me when you think there's going to be a problem. Tell me when you're bothered by what's going on. Tell it to me now, because that stage I can work with you. Can you do something different? Can we do something? Can we do something in the system that's different? Can we at least listen to you and let you vent on this? Sometimes that's all that's needed. Probably 50% of the parents that came to me unhappy, if I just listened to it, and they were either here or they were running into here, and saying, thank you for bringing that to my, I really appreciate you brought that to my attention. It was enough. It was enough. You heard me. You're thinking about what I say. You have some empathy for what I'm doing. I don't want it at aftermath. I don't want it then. I'll take it. That's my job, you know. But if I'm continuing to get that bench full of kids, something's going on wrong back in the system. Okay, another side of it. I have a teacher that sends children to the office a lot. When at what level, when there's a conflict between the child and the teacher, at what level do I want to deal with that conflict as the leader? After they've blown up with the kid and then the kid's blown up back and I deal with the aftermath? No. While they're yelling at each other and they're both blaming the other one? No, I don't want that. So I again want to hear back here at the perceived level, and only if I'm open to hear it over and over. I hear lots of petty complaints. But only if I'm open to saying, thank you for bringing that to me, even if I don't do anything with it, can I get into some of that stuff before it gets down in here, because this is not where I want to deal with it. Now, if I'm dealing with it down here, here's another sentence as leader I would say. I will take care of this. But if you are bringing this to me, I will take care of this. And it is no longer your choice on what's going to happen anymore. If you want to make the choice and tell me and have me support you, that's different than dumping child in my office. You dump child in my office, I'll take care of it. You may not like the way I take care of it, but you gave it to me to take care of. And that took a couple of years to understand. If you give it to me, you can't go back and say you should have, you did, I'm going to do it differently. You gave it to me. My aftermath went way down because they had stopped and thought, do I want to give up that piece? I'm the one that has to keep working with that child. She's going to make this decision, and then I'm going to have to deal with her decision the rest. Conflict at this level is a great thing to use in your inbox, by the way. It's a great thing to talk about. Think about Mr. Yeager and his flowers. Where is he? We're in the aftermath. It already happened. But I'm also in the stage of perceived for the next time, aren't I? Okay, so I could say, yes, it's aftermath, the flowers are wrecked. But I also could say, I'm going to call him because he isn't perceived or felt, whatever you think, how mad he was. If he's really mad, he's in felt conflict. And if I don't intervene, they're moving to the next stage. They'll call the superintendent. They'll come mad to the school. They'll retaliate on the children. Something's going to happen if I don't do that. So that's a great, this set of steps is a great one to use on your inbox with that as well. Thoughts? Oh, you had so many conflicts in the last 2 weeks, there had to be thoughts. You don't want to tell the whole group, tell each other, talk about some of these stages of conflict that you've seen in the last 2 weeks. You only got about 2 minutes, so somebody get started. What's some stages of conflict you've seen?
See it all. So I had one where they went through all the stages and then went through again. Yeah, it is the first because it went through all the stages. These kids were, talking,
Felt and manifest sort of spot. They're irrational. I can't rationalize. So you try to teach them getting there and their energies if they are there, trying to get them out.
Progress. There was an application. So I dealt with the aftermath of the application. There was a parent. He handled things inequities and how he was handled. And then that process took another time. Right. And then she came up with it, and then finally, and the thing I learned from that was interesting. I felt pretty good about that, but in my mind, I was like, being over what I was like,
Well, we can go on like that too, I
you know,
but isn't it interesting?
make it go back.
You're all slickies. I pushed you and you're hard to stop because in this case, you're that concrete random. You were at that place where you're like, I'm putting some reality on this theory thing that she said. I lived this week, and this is the way it was. And no table sat there and said, well, I didn't have anything, did you? Nobody said that. By the way, if you don't like conflict, if it really bothers you and eats away at you, you need to think very carefully about your leadership role. That doesn't mean there's no leadership role for you. There are. But it doesn't matter whether you're mentoring 3 new teachers or whether you're the head of the technology department or whatever those things are. You are constantly managing conflict. Constantly. And if it's more bothersome to you to work through it, then you can celebrate for the successes you're making. If you can't see the successes, and you know what, I'm not having as many people come to the office. I've been having to just go after it, but look, it's after lunch and the bench is empty. If I can't celebrate that, not because, look what I did, the bench is empty, but look at that, there are a bunch of kids that are in classroom being educated right now that aren't sitting there waiting for their parents to be called. And, if you can't put it in those forms, if that's not your style, then probably some of these leadership positions are not either. Because that's the coin of the realm around here. That's what it means to be human and lead a group. Whether it's a group of Boy Scouts and you're the head Boy Scout of the group, or whether you're the captain of the baseball team, or whether you're the general in the army, or the president of the United States, or the principal of the school. They each have their own ways and their own kinds and their own avenues of conflict. But the highest stress job is a teacher. The highest stress job is airplane traffic control. The second highest stress job is teaching. Because of this kind of stuff. You say, wait a minute. Oh gosh, the superintendent's got a lot bigger stresses than the kindergarten teacher does. Yes, Or why is it firefighter before that? Well, the firefighter has huge big times of stresses, and then they have times, then they go through a long stretch of low stress. The elementary teacher has more decisions to make in an hour than any other person except an air traffic controller. It never stops. And I did say elementary. It is elementary that has that. You say, wait a minute, the secondary kids, they're so much more volatile and all the hormones. The responsibility level changes. You see, if you don't come to class tonight, I don't call your mother. Well, I'm graduate school, and it just keeps going back all the way. So if you're at a preschool, you're parent as well as teacher, and it's every minute. Every minute. You don't have to, you don't have to worry that somebody picked a penny up off the floor and swallowed it the same way in high school. But you do have. Well, okay, maybe you do, but it's the elementary teacher. But after that. Again, the frontline administrators come right after that. They do not have as many by the minute by minute. That was amazing to me that I actually could go to the restroom on my own time without having to have anybody cover anything for me. I didn't have to say, cover my class. I could just go get a cup of coffee, and it was 10:30, and it wasn't passing period. And it was amazing to me when I quit doing that. But the stress points are bigger. So people that can stand that minute by minute and watch the kids minute by minute and deal with those kinds of stresses cannot always deal. The conflicts get less in between, but bigger when they come along. I think this is the second most interesting graphic that I have to show after the stages. Just the way we have styles in how we learn, we also have styles in how we deal with conflict. And there is, I believe, in your handout, a style thing for this. If not this week, it's in next week. Somewhere in there, it comes up and asks you questions, and it comes up with this. Is it in this week? Okay. Don't do it now. Because we all live in some of the time. I want to explain it now so you have time. You can do it at another time. There are two scales in this model. Cooperativeness doesn't mean like, we think of uncooperative as like stubborn, won't do what other people. Uncooperative in this case means not interested in, these people are cooperative means you really care about what everybody else feels, getting along, those types of things. Uncooperative is not, it's not that they're anti, it's just that they don't care about the group cohesiveness as much. Assertiveness goes from assertive to non-assertive. Now we all live in all of these, but we gravitate toward one more than others, and in times of stress, we go to our favorite. Okay? So let me talk a bit about what these 5 are and then how it works. The 5 kinds of ways of responding to conflict are avoiding, and avoiding is very common. If I know, if I go and sit at the table next to this guy, we're going to have a discussion that turns ugly before it's over, the easiest thing for me to do is find another table to sit at. We learned that in preschool. So we learn to avoid. I can actually remember having a conflict with one of my bosses that my boss had their desk at the end of the hallway that they could see down the hallway, and I would walk down the hallway so that I was out of line of sight of that person as I would walk down the hallway, because I was like, I don't want to have another go around, and if they see me, we're going to have it again, because I'm not going to back down, and neither are they. So I'm just going to go about my work, and you're going to go about your work, and we're all going to be happy, and it's going to be okay. That works all right to a point, and there are times when that is the good thing to do. I'm going to be asking you about that, to be thinking about that as well. For example, that's a good thing to do when it's trivial. If it's going to be, are we going to have a 2-door car or a 4-door car? If it's just cosmetic, it's trivial. We'll just avoid the whole thing and get a pickup. I don't know. But, you know, if it's trivial, you let it go. So you avoid it. If I don't have any power, that's another way that I do. I didn't have any power. That's why I was walking down the hall like this. I couldn't change anything. I didn't want anything. I've tried everything I know to make it different. So I was walking over against the side of the hall so I didn't have another conflict. I avoided it. It didn't resolve anything. Kept right on having it. So if you avoid most of the time, your problem's going to get bigger and bigger because people get louder and stronger and more of it trying to get you to engage when you avoid. Accommodating is when you are going to let the other person win. Accommodating is when we care about what the other person feels about. So we're here to avoid. That person that I was avoiding, I didn't want to see him. I didn't want to know. I wasn't cooperating. Both of these are unassertive ways of responding. I'm going to accommodate. I'm going to let that person win. You say where you want to go to dinner. I say where I want to go to dinner. Oh, we'll go where you want. Again, I don't care very much and you care a whole lot about it, then, okay, I don't care that much. We'll let you have this one. Accommodating is done when power is not equal as well. If you have all the power and I have none, I'm going to accommodate you. I'm going to do as you say and let you, I can't be assertive because you have the power. Accommodating works for some things. When it doesn't matter, when it only matters to one person but it doesn't matter to the other, you let them have their way. Why fight over something if you don't care about it? Compromising is often the way that we try when we don't agree with one another. Compromising is the way we try to get our way out of it. I cannot sleep with the windows open. I can't breathe all that humidity. I'm sorry, I cannot sleep with the windows open. The other person in the room says, there's no air in here. I cannot sleep with the windows closed. I can't sleep. Okay, we'll accommodate. We'll put the window halfway open. Now nobody's happy. They're not happy because there's not enough air. I'm not happy because there's too much air. Whenever you compromise, everybody gives up something, and that's what they remember. We always think, okay, you want this and I want this, and we'll go like this and meet in the middle. We both remember the part that we gave up. And very often we forget what the other person gave up, and we say to ourselves, I gave up this really important thing for this. And they forget the other person gave up what they gave up, because we live in our own, we're the star of our own movie, and so compromising works sometimes, but to go to that immediately, that doesn't get us the best answer. That gets us a mediocre answer. But it works when time is short. We got to come to a decision. Neither one of us wants to give up all the way. Okay, we'll give in partially and make it work. It also sometimes helps when you feel like you're not being treated fairly to see that the other side's giving up something too. So that when you want someone to move position, one of the ways you can do that is to give up something that matters to you, to show that you're willing to move. Because in our society, if someone gives you something, even if it's a concession, you feel like you need to concede. They know that when they bargain with you at the antique stores. They know that. They'll put this price that they know is too high, and then you come in and you say, I want this price that you know is too low, and you both know that you're going to wiggle down toward that. But I'm not going to tell you really the price I'm going to pay for it to start out with, because if I come down, they're going to expect me to concede by going up. We know this way of conceding. And so sometimes we can play it to our own advantage by saying, I need you to concede this much, and to do that, I am conceding this much. Notice what I am giving. Okay, now that you've noticed what I'm giving, you feel guilty, you're going to come my direction with it. Forcing, if you look, oh, I keep going the wrong direction, apologize. Forcing is on the assertive side. You can see up here that it's called competing, and sometimes that's a better word for it. It depends. Sometimes it's competing and sometimes it's forcing. But you can see that's high assertive. When I don't care about anybody else, it's about what, okay. Forcing sounds like a terrible thing for a leader to do. Force people to do things. Is there any time that a really, really good leader will force a staff member to do something?
Yes.
What would that person do that they would need forcing? What's the situation?
Bus duty.
They're forcing you to do bus duty. Why would that be forcing?
Because it needs to be done.
For the
Kids. Safety.
the safety of the kids, okay? Safety of the kids is more important than you not liking to go out in the cold, okay? Forcing is done by good people when what is happening is unsafe, unjust, unfair. You're going to force somebody to treat children with respect if they don't. You are not going to allow someone to continue to abuse children verbally or emotionally, and you're going to force it even if it's forcing out of the job. And it's really tough.
Does that count just like also with law? I mean,
Yeah.
With the law, you have to
Yeah. Forcing works with law too. But again, law usually has to do with the greater good of safety, you know. I mean, if you're going to say, I'm going to drive up everybody's, I'm going to drive on the left side of the road instead of the right, we're going to force you to do it the other way because of the safety issue that's involved. It's not just because it's cosmetically better for us all to be on the right side of the road. I mean, forcing is something that's not easy to do. To look somebody in the eye and say, there will be no more of this. If there is any more of this, this is what's going to happen. And follow through to the place of removing someone from a job. But it isn't always that horrible. I had to force a custodian to quit eating out of the garbage cans after lunch. For his own health, for the model for the students. You say, oh, that was really gross, but I couldn't compromise on it. I couldn't compromise on that. There was no if I avoided it, it was just going to get worse. More of the families were going to know about it. More of the kids were going to tell this story at home. More, you know.
So he didn't do it privately?
No, he did it right in the cafeteria, right in front.
What? Just like reach in and
Well, you know how it is in elementary school. Those kids, I don't like pizza.
you just like reach in.
He'd reach in and take it. Oh yeah, you laugh now. It wasn't funny then. It wasn't funny because I couldn't avoid, I couldn't accommodate, I couldn't compromise, and I certainly wasn't going to collaborate with that kind of behavior. I didn't want him doing it privately. That wasn't good for his health. That, you know, it was against procedures anyway. For, you know, you don't. I mean, that's not the way you deal with things that are in a trash can. And I actually had to force and get other leaders involved and so forth, and talk about, you know, whether we were going to continue employment, you know, type of thing. And now, I had no choice. I can't say, well, you know, we're going to take you off of cafeteria duty and put you onto grass cutting duty or something like that. I had no ability to do that because this is the only person that could do this, and I had to force the issue. And it isn't funny when you do it. It really isn't funny, and it isn't fun, but you know what you're doing ahead of time, and you know personally why you're doing it. It's not a personal power trip. I knew exactly why I was having to do that. His health was not good for the children. It was a terrible thing for them to be seeing and experiencing, you know, and it was against the rules as well, you know, and it was not something that could go on any longer. It had to be forced. Collaborating is what everybody thinks is the way to go, by the way. Collaborating is good. Okay, we're going to decide how we're going to do the summer school schedule next year. All right, all of us, we're on the summer school scheduling committee for next summer. Aren't you all excited? Mm-hmm. Why are you not excited to be on the you get to choose when summer school is.
I don't teach
you don't teach summer school. It doesn't matter to you. What if you did? What if everybody in here this was the summer school teaching staff? Then you'd care.
You got 19 different agendas.
You got you know how long that's going to take and how many hours we're going to sit here and just spin our wheels going with everybody wants their program and everybody wants, some people want it early. Collaboration is expensive to a school district because your big expenses are people and time. So if I get you together and have this meeting, I'm paying all those salaries for that the hour that it's taking for you to decide. Whereas if I come out and say, here everybody, here's the schedule for this summer, you're going to hate it, you're going to love it, you're going to be okay with it, you don't care, you don't teach summer school. And it's going to, but it didn't take any time. It took just my time, one salary, we're done. So when do you collaborate? You collaborate when there's time for it. And when it's important for everybody to commit to this. If I'm going to say, okay, this is all the science teachers in this school district, and we're going to get together and talk about how we're going to align our curriculum through from K to 12. Collaborating is important because what they do in second grade is going to matter with what they do in fifth grade, and it's worth our time. And I'm going to put my resources into that. That's an important conversation. And they're going to argue like cats and dogs in there. They're going to argue about what's good in what grade. No, you shouldn't be teaching chemistry at this level. We should be teaching it at this level. And I've always taught astronomy here astronomy here, and you know, and they're just going to have fits over it. But when we're done, if this person knows what that person's teaching, and this person knows why they need to prepare them at that stage, just think how much better the education's going to be. Collaborating is important then. But it's not always. So all of these things are important to be able to do well. You have to be able to force when somebody's safety or health or ethical reasons, you have to be able to force. You have to be able to avoid some things. You have to not have to micromanage everything that matters. I don't like a classroom that sits in these desks like this. I can't stand having people with their backs to me. I mean, she's having to turn clear around. I can't stand that. But I avoided that this evening. In fact, you know, I didn't have time. I'm short. Is time one of those things, you know? So here we are. We're sitting in a way that I don't like, even though I'm the leader, because, oh well, that's trivial compared to what I had to do with that time. I'd much rather spend the time talking about the inbox or whatever. You have to be able to do all of them. And you also have to know when to gracefully leave one and go to another. And the thing with conflict is, if you are the paraprofessional, there's one level that you need to understand about conflict. When you become the teacher who's actually in charge of the education, all of a sudden it becomes more complex and more stressful. And then you become the team leader. And you need to be even better at it, and it is more stressful, and you need to have more tools at it. And the farther you go up the ladder, the bigger the stresses are, and the more successful you are with this, the more successful you are. By the way, this is another great thing for the inbox. You know, somebody said that they weren't gonna answer the guy's phone call. They could say they were avoiding because this guy's a cranky old guy, and he calls every Saturday. You know, he calls every Saturday about something or other. You know. So I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to end tonight with an interesting word. We as teachers too often satisfice. We look for the good first answer because we got so many stresses. We already talked about this evening. There's so many things being at us, whether we're the principal, whether we're the head of curriculum, whether we're the head of transportation. Oh my goodness, I didn't want to be the head of transportation this week. Oh, there was no winning in that one. There was no winning. There was conflict whether you wanted it or not when that school bus started to go Wednesday morning. And we want that conflict to go away. It's uncomfortable. We're unhappy. We want it to go away, and we want everybody to get along, and we want it to stop. We want the pain of the conflict to stop. And so too often we go for the first right answer instead of stepping back and saying, okay, where am I? Where are they? What do I really want as opposed to what do I really need? Am I arguing for stuff that I just want, or am I going after what I really need? That's a difference in negotiation. You have to know what you want and what you need. You get as much as you want, but you don't give away what you need. And you have to know what they want and what they need, and you don't mess with what they need, but you try to get them to concede on what they want. But satisficing is this idea of choosing the first answer because it's easy, it's right there, boom, we're going to do it. And this is a little analogy about that. Remember in change, storytelling is powerful. Once there were two women who both wanted a lemon. So they went to the store, and there was only one lemon left in the store. So, fair is fair, right? They chopped the lemon in half. And they'd agreed to that. So the woman took her half the lemon home and she squeezed it to make a drink, but the juice was barely enough to cover the bottom of the glass. And the other woman took her half home and she grated the rind to make lemon-flavored cake, but it really didn't have enough rind to make it very flavorful, and the juice was just everywhere. Had they taken the time to talk about what they really wanted and what they really needed, there was enough of everything for both of them. And they could have had what they wanted if they just would have first recognized what they needed and communicated that. Too often, we don't think even what I need a lemon. You don't think I need lemon juice. And too often, even if I need lemon juice, I ask for the whole lemon. So how do we manage conflict? Well, if it's functional conflict, we don't manage it. We let people, if people know how to disagree appropriately, we let them disagree because that's how we learn things about where the rough places are. But if it's inappropriate and it's destructive and it's dysfunctional and it's bringing us down, if it's between two people, you separate them. You have first lunch, you have last lunch. You have playground duty, you have bus duty. You separate. You teach 4th grade, you teach 5th grade. You separate them from one another as much as you can. Physically, if not physically, at least in terms of responsibilities. This is your part of the job. This is your part of the job. It's not always possible. I had 2 friends on my administrative team that never got along ever. They were both friends with me, but they couldn't see eye to eye. I happened to turn the corner and they were in a red-hot argument. And one of my friends grabbed my arm and started to tell me why I should agree with her side of the argument. And the other woman grabbed my other arm. Avoiding was at that point no longer an option. I had the 2 combatants holding me by my arms, wanting me to side with one of them or the other. Now there is one school of thought that says just side with one. Doesn't matter which one it is, just side with one, get it over with. But staying in the middle is like cutting the lemon in half. Which side's right, which side's wrong? not always workable. I just need to get out of the situation. They were never going to get along, and I didn't agree with either one of their positions, and which is what I finally said. I don't agree with this because of this, and instead of saying I agree with this and I agree with this, I said I don't agree with this because of this. I don't agree with this because of that. I think that you're going to have to go to someone else to mediate this because I don't agree with either position. And I want both of you to stay friends with me. Of course, they were both mad at me. They got over it. So, one way to do it is to appoint a mediator. But remember, when you appoint a mediator, you give away your control. And it has to be a mediator they both agree with. So if you say, okay, you're going to be the referee in this game, they both have to agree that the referee gets to say, and they're going to follow by the rules. You can appeal to the higher goal. You know what? You're both in the same school here. We both want our school to succeed. Let's talk about the greater good and how can you do your part for the greater good and not continue to be destructive with one another. When it's in groups, again, you separate them. Sometimes you can't have them move to another place. That's where the group is. But you separate who does what, who has what responsibility. You get a higher authority involved that they both respect and will go with. You point boundary spanners. This is where we will argue, and this is you put all those ground rules. These things are okay to discuss. These things we agree to disagree on. Negotiation again is listed last for a reason because it takes all the time of collaboration. You have to know what you want. You have to know what they want. You have to know what you need. You have to know what they need. That takes a lot of understanding of somebody else. And so you only do that on something that it really matters about. So with that, you have several things to be thinking about now before I see you. And it isn't all turkey. One is you've got an inbox to prepare for. So that should write that on your little to-do list somewhere. Prepare for your inbox. That means get your notes ready, get your practicing ready, so that you can sit down and feel comfortable with what you do. I tell the people there is no one right answer, but there are wrong answers on it. There's many right ways to handle it, but if you just said, go sock Mr. Yeager in the nose, that's a wrong answer, because it's going to get you arrested. So if it's something that's unsafe or going to make you lose your job or something, it's wrong. There are some wrong things to do. But there is many right ways to do that. You need to be working on your issues paper. You don't want to leave that till the very last time, because the closer you get to the end, the less I have the ability to come in and give you any kind of support with what it is you're doing. You have a Blackboard lesson to do on motivation, law, and decision making. That's why I put it into 3 parts for you, so that you can take it in smaller chunks with that.
Motivation, law, and what?
They're just on Blackboard. They're all together. It's all under decision making.
Okay.
But they have 3 parts on it: process motivation, ethics and law, and decision making are the 3 parts. And I hope you enjoy it. Some of these later things I think are worth your time, and they're certainly, I look forward to them, because that's where when we really start to we start less about traits and more about stuff that we can see, do, and change and work with as we're going through things. Again, I will be in town until the week of Thanksgiving. The week of Thanksgiving, I will be very limited access, and then starting the Saturday after Thanksgiving, I'll be back in the loop again with things. So before or after that's better. Don't forget to fill out your folder, and I should have, as of right now, the grade book's good up to November 10th. I will continue to try to stay ahead of things. And one other thing, some people were saying, my gosh, how come I only got 1 point or 2 point on this 25-point paper or something? I can't give you any feedback without giving you a point. So every time I give you feedback, I give you a point, just so that the computer will open up and let me do it. So don't freak out if you get something that says 2 points. That means I've talked to you 2 times. If you wrote something for me, you're going to have 18 points. You're going to be way up there. I'm not going to give you a grade of 1. That's just to open up the computer. So if you have questions, I'll be here around here. Otherwise, you're going to fill out your folders. Make sure you have everything with you for the next 2 weeks. And we will see you after that.
I missed the last class that we had, so I emailed you my topic, and I didn't have, you emailed me back, but there was nothing in Blackboard like for points.
I will look back and see what's going. Oh,
Because I emailed you.
yeah. If you're emailing, I only put the point in there because it lets me. So if I emailed you back, I didn't
It's
need
okay.
to give you a point
Okay.
because I could get the message to you
Just
without the
making
point.
sure.
Not a problem. I'm learning this Blackboard stuff this semester too.
Is case study still available?
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's still going strong. About half the people are still turning that in.
Okay, so I can do. I mean,
Yeah.
I got behind, and
Yeah.
I know you were kind of cutting off some of them.
The only thing
What's
I was
still
cutting
available?
off is the stuff
The
before the
daily
first
ones?
test.
The stuff before the first test.
Anything
Okay.
after that's still
Anything after
still
that
playing.
still live?
Yep.
All right, cool.
And I think you're up with that stuff.
Yeah, I've got to. I have to do the. I'm thinking 2 of the major ones: the case study and the leadership.
Okay, this thing's still running, and I gotta figure out how to Why is it not?